Hello, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to take a look at, we were looking at Milwaukee, or I should say Klein Multi-Nut Drivers. Let's take a look at the Milwaukee offering. So Milwaukee has a version of this multi-nut driver available, and we'll see if it makes sense or compares to the Klein or how it looks all together. So let's just look at what they have going here. They have the same sizes as the Klein, and we'll take a look at that later. They're advertising that you can put it on an impact gun. That's one of the big selling points of this whole design idea. And it has the magnetic tip. It does not appear as though this will work very easily with screwdrivers. So that's kind of something that you may want to note. So let's get this thing open. Okay, so we got this thing open, and taking a look at it, it says Impact Multi on the back, which is nice. So when it's jammed down in your toolbox or tool bag, you kind of have an idea what you're grabbing. This thing is made in Taiwan, where all the Klein stuff is also made in Taiwan. So let's take a look at how they did this. So this is made a little bit differently than the Klein. I can see a few things right off the bat. Now, let's get this off. So this appears to need force from two sides. If you're looking here, I try and operate that with one finger. It doesn't work. You kind of got to double finger that. And that's okay. It might actually be really good because you can't accidentally get against that and knock it loose. And we'll see how the Klein does a little bit later here. So now let's take a look at what we see here. We have our 9/16 socket. That is really captured on there pretty well. 9/16 and half, and then our 7/16 and 3/8. And our 5/16 and quarter. And then here's our, I don't know if you want to call it a mandrel or your shank of the tool. And it's a slightly different design where they've made the end of it here that it's kind of radiused out and is backing. So when you put your sockets on there, it kind of backs the socket itself and creates a ledge. I'm wondering if all of these radiuses, I don't know if it's hard to see possibly, but there's multiple different radiuses there, and I'm wondering if they seat in the sockets differently and get you that spacing for the magnet. So that works actually pretty nicely. You can see there's a 5/16. So this is pretty nice. It's made reasonably well. It will go into an impact easily, just like that. Comes back out. And let's see how true it runs actually. Let's get a battery. And let's see, we'll put the heavier socket on the end of it and just see. So if you recall, we had a bunch of run out on the Klein one when we tested that. I think we tested with a socket about this size. So let me get this one on here and see. Yeah, you can see it's got some run out. It's just how these things are. I mean, they're longer. I don't know that this is necessarily bent. It's just how these things work. They don't, the more you have in it, the longer it gets, the more vibration you're going to see as these tools are compromised. So let's compare it to the Klein. And here's the Klein. Now the Klein, right off the bat, you can operate with one finger. And that's okay if you find that this is too cumbersome, And maybe this will work better as you use it more. This is new and maybe stiff. Yeah, that seems like it actually will start working with one finger. This is just it's brand new and stiff. There you go. So I think this will be basically the same as the Klein. So it'll work with one finger. But we compare our sockets. We could actually get out the microscope and look at them. Alright, so we got the microscope out. Let's take a look here. We'll start the microscope recording. You're just going to see it here off to the side, and I'll put the image of the microscope on the screen. Now, we'll take a look here at the Klein, and we'll do the 9/16. You can see it's very nicely made. It's very evenly, I don't know if they grind these or how they, but very crisp corners. And then here's the Milwaukee one. Here we go. We'll put it right next to the Klein if we can. We can't go exactly next to it. But you can see a little bit of we get some sort of pointer. A little bit of a relic of manufacturing maybe here. A little bit of a dent there. And you can see their corners aren't crisp like the Klein's. They have a little bit of relief in them. And there's a few schools of thought of that because most of the force is exerted along this line right here. So if there's relief in the corners, some people think that you don't round them off as easily. So that's just, I don't think one's necessarily better than the other, it's just a different manufacturing technique. So let's zoom down into here and you can see kind of that radiused bit that I think would correspond with what you see on the shank. See how that's stepped? You can see kind of some steps there in the end of the socket. So that's something to look at. And then the Klein goes for more of a splined drive on their socket, and that looks more like this. You have the spline and the ball detent. There we go. You have the spline and the ball detent to hold everything into place. So not necessarily one being significantly better than the other, they're just different. And you see that a lot with manufacturing because chances are whoever came out with this first has a patent on it, and the other manufacturer couldn't copy it exactly because there was a patent on it. So it's a loosely copied version. And that's okay, but that's, I think, why you see things like that. So, moving on, let's take a look at how the fit and finish looks on the ends. So the grind and everything on these are both very good. This is Milwaukee here and this is Klein. I don't see any real issues with either. It looks like maybe the Milwaukee has a little bit longer engagement up into the chuck, but as you saw, this vibrates as well, so I don't know how much it helped, but more is probably better. The length of them and everything is all probably about the same here. There you can see, the length is about the same. And here you get a better look at the two different driving methods, both utilizing a ball detent, one purely hex and the other having the splines. The magnet on the Milwaukee is a difference. The magnet, let's get that in focus, is recessed into the tool, whereas on the Klein it stands proud. Now, there's two ways to look at that. I honestly think the Klein might be a little bit better because the Milwaukee, it's going to be harder to clean out. It's always going to have a little bit there, whereas the Klein, you could wipe it right off. So just interesting differences between the two. Let's look at the length of the two handles. The Klein probably has a little bit better grip surface area, and the chuck, I don't know if I can get the chucks very, nah, you're just going to see the side of them. It's not overly helpful, so we're not going to mess with that. So we could look at them here. The chucks on them both about the same. The Milwaukee seems to be a little sticky from factory, whereas the Klein is quite a bit smoother. I'm sure the Milwaukee will wear in as you use it, but you can kind of see, I could show that on here. You can see it's stuck, and I just bump it and it goes in. So that's a difference. I don't know if that's really significant, that one's worse or anything like that. It's just a difference. So between the two, I think they're both in the same price point. I think I would probably want to go with the Klein, just because at this time the Klein has a whole lot more stuff that you can get to go along with it. That's just some of it. You can get metric, you can get a screwdriver set. That is something that I should mention, that the Klein, when you put your 1/4 inch hex tip on, you can put it on part way, and you can actually put a screwdriver tip in it. And the same goes for the metric set. You can put it in the number 7. That you can half set and put screwdriver tips in it also. Whereas the Milwaukee, let's try and do that. Let's put our 1/4 on. There is no half setting it. It's either on or it's not. And if we tried to put a screwdriver tip after I launch it across the bench, you really can't. So between the two, I think the price point is about the same. I think I go with the Milwaukee or the Klein, just because you have a little bit more versatility between the two lines. Now let's compare weight. Let's look at how much they weigh. I'm gonna guess that the Klein's probably gonna be a little heavier because it has a beefier handle, but let's see. Maybe it's not. You can see the length of the Klein is longer. And let's get our scale out. The Klein weighs in at 250 grams, and the Milwaukee weighs in at 228. So they're pretty close, but the Milwaukee is lighter. It is shorter. Both will work with an impact gun. The Klein does as well. We could show that. The Klein also will go on an impact gun, just like that. So both work with an impact gun, which is handy. I mean, that's a nice feature, and they both have the nice handles. So kind of a quick look, a not so quick look at how these things work. Comparison between Milwaukee and Klein. I think for my money at this time, I would go with the Klein, just because of how many other features or options you get in that line. Now, will Milwaukee come out with more? They very well may, but time will tell. And for now, the Klein has quite a few different models. I think you can get a bunch of stuff, and it all goes together with that system. So for now, I think I would stick with the Klein, but the Milwaukee is a nice tool if you have all Milwaukee stuff. Sometimes that's a hard thing to go with a different color. I understand it's one of those things in the world that happens. So hopefully this was interesting. I'm not trashing this at all, but for now what you have is what you see here in options, and if this gets you what you need, you're set. But if you need an 11/32 or you need half, 3/4 or 5/8 or metric, I don't think the Milwaukee is going to get what you want. But if you're looking for just a basic, simple, few things nut drivers that you can throw on an impact gun, I think this is just fine. And the other nice thing is this sets this handle, same for the Klein, it'll double as anything else that has that shank on it. You know, if you wanted to use a vari bit like this to deburr with, you could. Now you have a handle to drive it. So there's multiple options with this stuff once you start having a system like this that works with tools. Kind of interesting to see where some of this is going. So if there's more Milwaukee stuff that comes out, I'll try and get it and we'll review it, take a look at it. But I think for now, if you're just buying into this for the versatility of multi-tools, I think possibly the Klein is the way to go. But that may change in the future, and I'll try and let you know if it does. So as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.